Pieces of rope up here, kind of tangled up. You'll see, perhaps, when I read the lesson from Genesis, why I have some tangled and not so tangled rope. The story I'm going to read, when we first read it, it kind of throws us off. We might think, my goodness, why would the Lord do that? But there was a very important reason why this story took place. It came to pass after these things that God said to Abraham, and Abraham said, "Here I am." He said, "Take your son now, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, to the land of Moriah, and there will be a burnt offering on one of the mountains that I shall tell you of." So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, took two of the young men who were with him, and he took Isaac his son. He split the wood for the burnt offering. He arose and he went to the place where God had commanded him to go. And on the third day he lifted up his eyes and saw the place. And he said to his servant, "Stay here, and I will go with the lad." And Abraham took the wood and the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and took the fire in his hand and the knife, and the two of them went together. And Isaac spoke to Abraham, saying to his father, saying, "My father." He said, "Here I am." He said, "Look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" And Abraham said to him, "My son, God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering." So the two of them went together. And when they came to the place, Abraham built an altar and placed the wood in order. And at that point in the story, it says that Abraham put his son Isaac on the altar to make him the sacrifice. And the Lord called to Abraham out of heaven and said, "I see that you will not spare even your own son. Do not lay your hand upon him." Then Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and there behind him was the ram, a ram that was caught by its horns in the thicket. And Abraham took the ram and he offered it as a burnt offering. Have you ever gotten stuck somewhere? You ever have your foot stuck between maybe two limbs out when you're out walking? Or maybe you put your hand into something that was really small and you grabbed a handful of something and then you couldn't pull it out? Actually, say that's the way they can catch monkeys. You put something in a coconut and you make a small enough hole their hand can fit in, and they grab all the stuff and then they can't get their hand out and they're too stupid to let go of the stuff to get free. I don't know if it works, but I've heard about that. So things get caught up in tangles. Now, you think you could untangle that, Luke? Think you could? Could you make it like one straight string? I don't know, maybe Mom can help. Oh. Wow. Can I hold the end of it and lift it up? See if you got it right? Lift it up? Okay. Oh. That wasn't too hard, was it? Was that hard? Was it easy? How about this one? You think you can try another one? That one, I don't think so. Maybe. Things get tangled up. String gets tangled up. Thread gets tangled up. Yarn gets tangled up. You're going to work on that for a while. Now this one, oh, you tangled up. This is the one straight out of... Now, these things, they're not supposed to get tangled. Here you go, Abby. Let's see if that one just... Look at that. Oh, look. Wow. I could do this all day. We haven't got all day. This one is not tangled. All right? So the story... I'm just going to take that away now. Let go. Here we go. The story has to do with Abraham. He was asked by God, very strange request, and it's sort of scary to think that the Lord would ask this of somebody. But it stands for the way Jesus himself felt, the fear Jesus felt when he was on earth. Abraham was asked, "Take your son and sacrifice him." Now, you think that's really strange, but in those days, people did that. It's really sad. In those days, people did that. And the point was that he didn't actually have to do the sacrifice. The ram was caught in the thicket. The ram was caught in the tangled up things that were right close by. And what that stands for is that, the Lord asks us to do things that can be really scary. The Lord asks us to do things that we think we can't possibly do. No, I couldn't possibly do that. We think, how could we possibly have the power or the strength or the intelligence or the wisdom to do certain things that just seem impossible? It's like trying to untangle something. I'll give you 2 minutes to untangle this. I bet you can't do it because I tied this up in knots. Yes. Sometimes our lives become very tangled. Sometimes we can't see clearly what we're supposed to do, and we look at our lives and we say, we've made a mess out of things. It's just terrible. What can I possibly do? Life's a mess. Well, in this story, the Lord's answer was in the mess. The Lord's answer was in the tangle. The Lord placed a ram or a sacrifice in this tangled up mess, this thicket, these barbs, these branches. There's a couple other stories where somebody's hair gets caught in the branches that are of a thicket. The Lord provided the answer in this story in the confusion of it all. And sometimes that's where we have to look. Sometimes when we're thinking, the Lord made it so hard I can't possibly get things right. And the Lord's saying to us in this story, I'll take care of it. I'll provide an answer for you. I'll give you what you need. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. The Lord can take care of you. Don't ever think your life is so tangled up. It's impossible. You've made such a mess of things. No, don't think that way. Especially not when you're little, but even when you're older. Don't think that. The Lord can always give us the answer and always give us the things that we need, even if things are really tangled. Don't tell me you've untangled that now. Okay, all right. It can be done. The answer to this story was that Abraham stands for the way the Lord felt like he couldn't possibly save mankind, and yet he could. There's a little bit deeper story to that. We'll talk about that in the sermon. The Lord can take care of us, no matter how strange and tangled and horrible things look. Amen. Let us